Hello everyone, my name is Rebecca Kelly and you're listening to the Everywhere We Go podcast. On this week's episode, I sit down with my good friend Marguerite Penrose. Her story is a story of perseverance and strength, a story of resilience and recovery. Born from an Irish mother and a Zambian father, born with congenital scoliosis and abandoned in St. Patrick's mother and baby home. Marguerite found herself hitting the parenting jackpot when she was fostered by Michael and Nolene at the age of 3, and she then grew up with her Irish twin, her sister, Ciara. Her condition resulted in many surgeries, which in one case left her paralysed at the age of 8, and in her later years, a chest infection that nearly killed her. After an interview with Ryan Tuberty, contact was made from a nurse who worked in St. Patrick's when Marguerite spent her time there. We discuss her involvement in the Black Lives Matter movement, and she explains her treatment at the hands of Racism Ireland. I found myself trying to justify the behaviours throughout the podcast, but Marguerite is very forgiving and her message to us is very simple: acceptance. Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are and where we come from. So who are you and where do you come from?
Hi Rebecca, I'm Marguerite and I'm from Dublin.
There is 2 points that I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you, one, about your life. Take it back to the beginning of your life and where your life started.
Yeah, sure. Well, as I said, I was born here in Dublin. So a lot of what I know is only what I've been told. And I have like one piece of paper that tells me a little bit of information. So basically, I spent the first 3 years in a mother and baby home. Now, I will clarify actually while I'm on your podcast. I did say it was a Magdalen Laundry.
Yeah.
But I was told it was a Magdalen Laundry and a mother and baby home. Since then, I received a little bit of abuse, shall we say.
Really?
Yeah, from people saying, oh, you weren't in a Magdalen Laundry. Who do you think you are? And blah, blah, blah. So it was a mother and baby home. And to be honest, both places aren't where anybody should start their life off. So there was no offence made on my part. You know, I'm only going from information that I've taught. I don't have the privilege of knowing exactly where I'm from.
Yeah.
So, so it was a mother and baby home. It was called St. Patrick's and it was on the Navan Road. So I spent the first just over 3 years, I'd say, there. So from what I know, my biological mother is Irish and my biological father is Zambian. Okay. So a little bit about my biological mother's background is that she had five older brothers and 1 younger sister. So there were 7 siblings. Her parents were quite elderly. It was a working class family background. She knew that she couldn't afford to raise a child. So obviously somewhere along the line, her and my father had met in Ireland. He allegedly was in the Zambian army and came over to the Curragh for a number of time. To stay a number of weeks, I should say, sorry. And obviously they met somehow, I don't know. And he did know that she was pregnant, but I don't know whether he knew this while he was here or when he went back. But so she decided then, obviously, that she couldn't maybe give me the life that she thought, you know, I needed. And so I don't know whether, like, I know I was born in a Dublin hospital. I don't, the letter says that she came to visit me in the mother and baby home a few times. Yeah. Now the letter is like a typed letter. It's a page
what is this
and
letter?
A paragraph. Yeah. So it's from, like, I was adopted from it was called St. Louise Adoption Agency. So basically my parents now, Nolene and Michael, who you know, my dad's auntie lived beside one of the nurses who worked in St. Patrick's. So my dad was in visiting his auntie one day for his lunch because he worked across the road. And she was in and she said, oh, Michael, she said, I wonder would yourself and Nolene be interested in fostering a child for Christmas? We're looking to, you know, give the kids a little bit of a Christmas. So Dad said, oh, I'll go home and I'll ask Nolene. So home we went anyway. Now, I don't know whether I realised this. Mum and Dad said they had actually talked about adoption prior to this. So they said, yeah. So that's how the ball started rolling. So they were to take me on Christmas Eve. Was it Christmas Eve or
and
Christmas
how old
Day?
were you?
I would have been 3. I think it all started happening when I was 3. So, but I was sick. So I was born with congenital scoliosis. So it's curvature of the spine. So mine was really bad. So it was quite severe. So I had a lot of medical complications when I was younger. And I was born without 3 ribs on my left side as well. They weren't just getting like a little 3-year-olds. They were getting a very complicated one. But thankfully, you know, when we met, they said that there was a great bond. I'm so sad I don't remember any of it. I was so young. I don't remember much about being in the home either. I remember little snippets, but nothing nothing
Could you imagine
significant.
those nurses with you? Because obviously I've seen pictures of you when you were like
With my fro.
Yeah, with your fro. Can you imagine these nurses obviously and that nurse said to your dad, well, would you be interested? Like praying that someone's going to take you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it must have been so hard on them. I did actually, since the Tuberty show, when I was on the show and I came up and I was going out of reception, the receptionist stopped me and she said, oh, there's been a phone call in from this lady. So of course, Mum and I were looking at each other going, oh, what's this? So it was actually a nurse. Her name is Kathy. And she was actually there for a year and she actually minded me.
Oh my God.
So that was the first time. So I'm 46 now. So that is the first time I have met somebody that was able to say that they knew me when I was, say that small.
And did you meet her?
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. We went down. She lives in Wexford. So Mum, Dad, Kira and I went down there a good few weeks ago during the summer. I can't even remember. I think I was in a bit of a blur. But she's lovely. So she was only 18 at the time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I haven't really told that many people because I suppose nobody's seen each other, kind of thing. So yeah, she's absolutely lovely. She was 18. So the gas thing is that she was saying that she was like mad about me. She wanted to adopt me, but she was only 18, obviously. Yeah. But she said I'd never been outdoors. So this is kind of the thing about the mother and baby homes that kind of hits home for people. So basically St. Patrick's, I don't know whether you've seen pictures. I have a Google of it anyway. It was like a big old huge building, but it was on huge grounds.
Right.
So there was no reason why kids couldn't be brought outside. So if you're there for 3 years, I'd never been outside. So that was the first kind of shocking thing that hit me. I was like, oh God, that brought it back to reality for me from where I was.
Yeah.
So basically we were locked in, so to speak. So she got permission to bring me out. So she used to bring me out into the ground. She said, like, I'd never touched grass. I'd never seen the sky properly. She said I was totally in wonderment of everything. Then she asked, could she bring me home? So she brought me on a bus. So she brought me home and to her family, and they all, looked after me with her for the weekends. So she used to buy me clothes and everything. She didn't know I had clothes, which she used to buy me really cute things, which was lovely. So she said she would have liked to have adopted me, but she was young. She was only 18. There was nobody going to give a child, an adopted child to an 18-year-old.
And can you, obviously, when you're a teenager growing up, as I said it previously in the courts, we were minding, Natalie Cooney.
I know,
Jesus Christ, could you imagine her?
That series was amazing.
Around you, she'd be like, oh my God, she's mine, I'm keeping her, I'm not letting her go. Yeah. So Kathy, an 18-year-old watching you and her probably upset at leaving you.
Yeah. The only reason she left, she was telling me, was her friend had gone to the UK to become a nurse, and she wrote her a letter and she told her it was amazing and that she'd be great at it. So that's the reason she left. So she went to the UK and became a nurse. So after I spoke to her briefly on the phone, I think was it that evening after the Tuberty show? Yeah, it was that night. So we spoke for about an hour. She was lovely. And you know what? The connection was still there. It was like I knew her. Didn't feel like talking to a stranger. It was really strange, but it was brilliant. So we then went down, as I was saying, there with the family a couple of weeks later. And we went to our house and we met her. So it was great. She had a full, real Irish mammy, full spread on. And I were driving up her driveway anyway, and Kira and I were in the back of the car, and Kira's like, oh my God, when we pulled into the driveway, I was like, stop, I'm going to actually have a heart attack. So I think they were more nervous actually than me. And I just said, oh, do you know what? I just have to do this. So jumped out of the car anyway, and she was at the door and she just gave me a big hug. So I did kind of think I was going to well up there, but I had to get it to keep it together because I knew if I started, that would be the end of me. So from then it was just like, say you and I sitting here, just full on yap. We were there for about, I'd say 4 hours.
Her own children?
She has, she's 3 girls. Yeah, she's married. Oh, she has an amazing house. Her garden is fab. Lovely roses. She's lovely. Still keep in contact now as well. So she's like, it's great to have her as a contact, to know that. And the great thing was to know that somebody did care for me. Now, I'm not saying that I was left in a corner, but, we hear so many horror stories about mother and baby homes, Magdalene laundries, orphanages, whatever you want to call them, all those places. So, because one of the stigmas, I suppose, attached to mother and baby homes is it was said that, say, mixed race kids, black kids were actually put on a different floor, that they didn't have the option of being first choice, shall we say, when it came to being adopted. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I was there for so long, 3 years. But then with my medical complications as well, that could have been another, which is understandable, you know. But for me, it's not something I dwell on. It's part of me. It's part of who I am. You know, I have a great life. You know, my family, they are the best. You know, I have great friends.
And over the years, Max, have you cried about that?
Not much.
No.
You know what I'm like though? I'm like the agony aunt kind of. I kind of process a lot myself. I get emotional maybe. I probably wouldn't bawl crying over it. But I think, you know what? I think I'm just so, I don't like to use the word lucky because I don't believe in the word luck. I believe your destiny, you know, what's meant for you. So I have a blessed life.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many children that are so worse off. Some of those mother and baby home survivors, like, are the industrial school kids, they went through horrific times. So compared to them, I am blessed. Yeah. I didn't have the best start in life. You know, nobody should start their life off like that. But my biological mother thought she was doing the best thing for me. And, you know, it probably was the best thing.
Do you know how old she was?
She would have been 70. She would be 75 this year. So I don't know if she's still alive. I don't know anything because that's another thing about being adopted.
Yeah.
You don't have access to your information. So you probably saw that online about the mother and baby homes.
Yeah.
The investigation that they're doing and trying to get the information, but they're trying to seal it now for another 30 years, which means there's no chance of getting any information. And it's so wrong. Like, I know you can't just be handed a piece of paper and told, right, that's who your biological parents are.
Yeah.
But there should be a better process to it, because I'm sure when our parents were giving us up as kids, they didn't realize the impact that it was going to have later on in life. I'm sure God loved them. I'm sure they go through turmoil every day, you know, thinking about that? Yeah.
Do you have to think that?
No, I don't have to think it, but I don't have children. You do. So you know what it's like to be a mother, to give birth. You know, any of my friends, my mum and dad, been parents themselves. They said there's nobody that you might block it out for a while, but it'll always come back. I noticed for me around my birthday, it's when you were talking about getting emotional, crying. Something happens to me around my birthday a couple of days before, just this sense comes over me. And it's probably a sadness.
Yeah.
Because you think, are they thinking of me? You know, they're probably thinking, are they thinking of me? So it's terrible because there's no middle person that can help you really. You can apply to Tulsa to try and trace. But I mean, it's so that you're talking years, you know, and then you might get a piece of paper that's redacted. You know, your parents could be dead.
Yeah.
They might not want to know you. So, but I think as well, some of those answers are, you know, if it comes back that they don't want to meet you, I think it's too hard for some of them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them probably didn't tell their families. I don't know if my mother's family knew or my father's family knew. Now, we did hear it a couple of years ago, again, hearsay, that my biological father did try to come over and take me with him. We don't know when it was, when it happened, but back then it was run by nuns, you know, that was a no.
Yeah.
A father wouldn't be taking a child and out of the country as well.
And first of all, the letter and then this piece of hearsay, because that's what you've been told, and you've no other reason not to believe that.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So you have to believe.
The only reason I've doubts in my head is because from talking to so many people over the last few months, from doing the interviews, we're all kind of chatting amongst each other, and I'm hearing things like, oh, I was told this, but I'm actually this. So I was told I was Zambian, but I'm actually Nigerian.
Oh, wow.
So it's these things that have put doubts into my head. Plus a piece of paper, there's been so many wrongdoings when it comes to adoption and mother and baby homes. You know yourself, the scandals that they're all talking about, the investigations. There's never any concrete, well, this is what happened. Here it is. We're going to open the closet. We're going to tell everybody what happened, and we're going to try and get past it and rectify, where it's all brushed under the carpet. So I've only got what this page tells me, or
where
what
did
somebody
you get
has
that
told
page?
Me. My parents were sent it. So it came in the post, and it was through when I was I was fostered first. The reason I was fostered and not adopted was because of my medical, because I had to have loads of surgeries and things like that. So I was I was a ward of court until I was old enough then, until most of my surgeries were over. So the adoption happened now. Isn't it terrible? We can't really remember when I was adopted.
Oh, really?
I say I was 16. My mom says I was 17. We can't find the cert. Like, this is how blasé we are about it. But so I was older. So at that stage, my biological mother actually had to sign a form to have me legally adopted. So yeah. So they would, and she did ask for a photo of me. Now I'm really sad.
Is this like 16 years later she had to do this? No.
Yeah. Before I was adopted, to legalise the adoption.
Now, that's mind blowing.
I know.
Is that not mind blowing for you?
Yeah. Well, you see, I was younger. You have to think, if this was all happening now, I'd be like, right, I want to know who she is. I want to see a picture. She asked for a picture of me. So we gave her one. I never even thought, I was just my mum and dad are my mum and dad. And, I live with them. And I have another mother. But I don't know. I just didn't think about it. Whereas now I'd have so many different questions, So, so she asked for a photo of me then.
And your mum and dad sent it?
Yeah.
Did they tell you she asked for this photo?
Yeah, sure. I had to be told everything. I had a social worker. Right. So because I was still like a ward of court. So the social worker used to come and visit the home. I think it was once a year or whatever. If there's anything wrong, like if I wasn't, well, or if I had surgeries, they'd be in contact with mum and dad. But mum and dad did everything for me. Like they were just amazing, because when they came and, I went to stay with them, started going out for weekends. There was actually another couple interested in adopting me. It's a laugh. I'm there 3 years, nobody. And then all of a sudden, everybody wants me.
It's like the men in your life over the years.
Let's not talk about that. Anyway, but my mum and dad didn't think they were actually going to get me as a child, because the other couple were doctors. So mum and dad said, we haven't a chance now. This is us gone. But they did.
Oh, so my God.
The best parents won. I know. Yeah.
And I know you and Ciara. So Ciara is your sister.
Yeah.
And how many, what's the age difference between you?
So we're both 46. So I'm 3 months older. I'm born in January and she's born in April. But I always see her as the older sister.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's gas. Everybody does. I think it's because, she's had kids. She's been married, so she was always looking out for me. Now we are very close. As you know, we've worked together. It's so funny. It's like, you're following me to this job. Like, she got me a job in Spar years ago because she started there. Then I started in Ryanair and I got her a job in Ryanair. Like, it was mad.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. Remember in Ryanair, people didn't even know they were sisters.
I remember I remember somebody slagging off Ciara or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, her sister. Yeah. That's her sister.
And because Penrose is an unusual surname.
Yeah.
So to have like two Penroses in the one building, so there's loads of us in Ryanair, we'll forgive them for that.
Yeah.
But so there's only 3 months between us. So mum and dad had quite a lot in their plate.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
so they had this 3-year-old toddler running around, and then all of a sudden they have this other toddler that comes with some, as you said, medical issues and conditions.
Yeah, and it was quite it was tough at the time, because I used to get like really bad chest infections. I needed lots of major surgeries. As I said there, I was born without 3 ribs on my left hand side, so I actually had to get artificial ribs made by a dentist.
Wow,
I know, a dentist.
Bonkers.
I know, it's all weird, but anyway, they're keeping me alive, so thanks very much, Mr. Dentist person. So that was only like minor. Then I had spinal fusion for my scoliosis. So I don't know whether you know about spinal fusion. They basically insert like a metal rod at the end of your spine, and it helps to straighten the curvature. So
how old were you getting?
I would have been 7 going on 8.
Okay.
So had the surgery, and that back then, I mean, it's still a big surgery now, but back then I think I was something like 15, 16 hours in surgery. Had the surgery, and then it was actually my mum noticed that there was a problem. So I was on a striker bed. I don't know whether you've seen them. They probably don't even do them anymore. So it's a really straight bed that turns you. So I couldn't just decide, I want to lie on my side.
Yeah.
So I either lay on my stomach or my back, but the bed flipped over. So you were kind of sandwiched in while they were turning you. And then when they turned you were automatically on your stomach. Oh, so God. I couldn't, I could basically move my arms myself, So, Mum came in to visit me one day and she noticed, she's, God, I don't see her moving her legs.
Yeah.
So she was saying to me, oh, wiggle your toes there. So I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. She was like, oh, great, great. So Mum said, no, I wasn't doing anything. So she went out and got the nurse, and the nurse called the doctor, and they all came into the room and they were testing. So I was actually paralyzed from the surgery.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I was rushed down then for another emergency surgery to take the rod out, thinking that was going to correct the paralysis, but it didn't. So 9 months later, I'm still in hospital. So you have to imagine, like, I'm only 8. I don't really understand what's going on.
Yeah.
My dad didn't drive. My mum drove. We lived in Donamead at the time. I was in Crumlin. It was miles away then. Yeah. There wasn't M50s and all that. So it was quite pressured. They'd Kira then as well as their daughter to look after. So, and they came to see me every single day.
Wow.
Every day. My mum was like the mum of the ward, because so many kids came up from the country and they mightn't have seen their parents once a month if they were lucky, some of them.
Oh,
so mum used to go around visiting everybody. Mm-hmm. So kind of after a good few months, like I'd had physiotherapy and everything to try and help, but you're nothing. I was going nowhere. So mom kind of eventually said, right, you know, she's had enough. We're going to take her home. So they put on like a plaster of Paris jacket on me. So it was like a vest, but it was made of plaster of Paris. So it was like, you know, when you break your leg.
Yeah.
So that was put on me as a vest, and I was put into a wheelchair. So they took me home. So mum and dad were really good. You know, they did my physio. I hated it. God loved them. I used to cry. I used to scream. Hated it. I didn't see the sense of it. I couldn't understand why I couldn't just walk. I went in there walking, you know, nearly a year later, and here I am in a wheelchair. But eventually one day, I actually remember this day, and I'm so glad I do. I was with mum and I literally took like 2 steps, and she was like, oh my God, you're walking. And I was like, am I? You know, the way it was like, you know, a child when a child's walking. Yeah. So, and that's how it happens. And here I am now plodding along today. So it was tough. It was a tough road. When I look back now, I'm like, how did I get through that? Well, only because my parents are amazing, and family and friends, you know, the encouragement, and I'm stubborn, as you might know. Yeah. So great determination, you know, to do that. So kind of then, like, my health, kind of, you know, I was grand. I was up and down. And then about 8 years ago, I started going downhill again. It wasn't great. Right. The lungs aren't brilliant. Because with scoliosis, it squashes your organs. Okay. So my lungs haven't got the same capacity. My stomach, everything like that, everything is all squashed. So I started getting sick, like chest infections, just run down, fatigue, everything. So it all came to a crescendo, as you'll know. It'll be 5 years ago this December. It started in the October. I wasn't well, got a really bad chest infection. Kept going to the doctor, you know, getting an antibiotic. Still wasn't feeling great, but kept going. Then, of course, it got to November, busiest time in retail. Yeah. So I was flat out in the shop, absolutely crazy busy. Got up to Christmas Eve, you know, wasn't great. When I look back at the pictures now, I'm like, oh my God, like I look actually like death. So it came to, I was off St. Stephen's Day. No, I was in St. Stephen's Day, and I was off the next day, and Jamie and Charlie were young, then my nephews. So I'd said to Kira that I'd sit with them for a few hours. Her and Dave were going off shopping. So she said, grand. I drove around, sat with them. And I remember sitting there when she was gone, and it just felt really weird. But I wasn't really thinking properly. So Kira and Dave came back, and Kira came into the sitting room, and she said, when she looked at me, she said, my breathing, it was like I was laboured. I couldn't take my breath properly. Yeah. She said to me, oh God, you don't look well. You're still not well. I'm calling the Cottage Hospital. Yeah. I was like, no, I'll be fine. I'm off tomorrow. I'll rest. Everything will be grand. So she said, come out to the kitchen, Dave's after making you something to eat. And at that point, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get into the kitchen, how I'm going to walk. I just felt awful. Got myself in, and I remember looking at the dinner and trying to pick up the fork going, oh, can't, I've no energy. So Kira just insisted then. She rang the emergency doctor in the Cottage Hospital up in Drogheda, and the triage nurse rang me back. I couldn't even talk at that stage. Kira's like, she can't form a sentence. She's coughing. She looks terrible. So they'd made an appointment, and we called mum and dad brought me up later. Now, still to this, we went, like, dad came with me. Yeah. And I thought, oh, they'll give me a stronger antibiotic or steroids and I'll be home. Yeah. So I'm in there, and the triage nurse sees me, and she said to me, you know, you're struggling to breathe. And I was like, oh, am I? I said, oh. And I remember I was roasting hot, and I started getting really agitated then. Yeah. But I couldn't breathe. That's what was wrong with me. Yeah. So she said, I'm going to have to go in. So the doctor was actually in with the patient. So she went in, got the doctor out, and the doctor just took a look at me and said, ambulance. Now, it's right around the corner, the Lourdes Hospital. So I was like, oh, my dad's outside, he'll bring me. She was like, no.
Typical you, though.
I know, I'll be grand.
Yeah.
That's my answer to everything. Sure, I'll be grand. Still no alarm bells, didn't think anything dramatic. So they went out, triage nurse said, I'll go out and tell your dad. She said, we're going to put you on oxygen here. So they lay me up in a bed and they put me on oxygen. And I kind of started feeling a bit better. So, and all I was thinking was, these ambulance men are going to come now and think this one is a quack. Like, they're after calling her an ambulance. So I was, me, mortified, right? Yeah. So my poor dad, how quiet he is. Yeah. So he came in and he's like, oh, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. I said, Dad, like, they wouldn't let you drive me around. So I was like, oh no, it's a bit strange. Still never thought anything. Anyway, got to the hospital, straight to A&E in the ambulance, still on oxygen. So it's now about 11:30 at night. Yeah. The place is packed. There wasn't even room for Dad to sit in a chair. So I was like, oh God. And I kept saying to Dad, go home. There's no point in you standing here. So the doctor came around and said, listen, we're going to keep you overnight anyway. So I said, listen, Dad, you go home. I have my mobile. I'll ring you guys if I want. So came to the next morning. Now this is where it all goes downhill. And I don't really remember much.
Tina.
So no, I remember my mom been there for a while. Then all of a sudden it cuts off and I remember my dad. And then they said to me, oh, we're bringing you around to this room. And it was actually like a small ICU downstairs. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really think anything of it. And the nurse, they said to Dad, you wait here. I'm going to come around and get you now in a few minutes when we have her settled. So I went in. And when I think back now, a lot of it makes sense. But at the time, I think I was so sick. And Dad, we didn't really know what was going on. Yeah. So the nurse actually went out and spoke to Dad and said to her, his words to me was, when later on, he obviously didn't tell me then. Yeah. They just said, you have a very sick daughter. And my dad said, but I don't know what's happening, what's wrong. So they said, we're going to have to admit her to ICU. So Dad was like, oh, okay. So it's about midnight now and I'm going up to ICU. So I remember going up in the lift and Dad got the other lift up. I remember going in. And they asked me, did I want tea and toast? I can remember all that. And then next minute I remember is Ciara standing over me, telling me, you're doing great, sis. So what happened in between was they settled me in. So in ICU, I don't know whether you've ever been. Hopefully nobody has experienced it. They are so lovely. They do amazing work, those nurses and doctors. So basically, like, I was in my own glass room. You're hooked up to, it was like space. The amount of wires and everything I was hooked up to. You have your own nurse who sits beside you 24/7. They told Dad to go home, that they were monitoring me for the night. So it was about 1 a.m, I think, when Dad went home. So Mum rang first thing in the morning about 6 o'clock. She couldn't sleep and rang and said, how is she? And they said, oh, we can't stabilize her. You're going to have to come up. Oh,
what was
Mum
it?
And Dad. It ended up that it's called type 2 respiratory failure. I was dying. My lungs were giving up. There was very little oxygen left in my body. But they said only for Ciara made that call that night, I wouldn't have survived. They didn't expect me to survive. Mum and Dad had to call Ciara. They were called into the room for the chat and basically told to start planning my funeral.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's something I don't really talk about because it's something that happened and thankfully I got through it. Yeah. But a lot of people just knew, oh, Max is really sick. They didn't know the extent of it,
How are you so strong? That's the one thing. I obviously, we know we've established that you and I are friends and a group of friends. We're friends a very long time. Yeah. And Julie said to me around that time, Mags is really sick. Where do you think your inner strength comes from? Because me, in your shoes, hello, me. I'd be like feigning the drama of it all if it was me, but
I don't know. Do you know what? Some people have asked me that, and it's just something within me. I don't know. If I think about it, I have thought about it a bit, especially from doing interviews and things like that. I really think it is from my beginnings. When you think about it, you know what they say about birth, you're fighting from the second you're born. Well, it's so true. I literally did because, I came out, I was born, I was sick straight away, shall we say. So you're always in that flight or fight mode, So I think it's just something I think it's just in with me. Now don't get me wrong, I'll have bad days, I had days when I was sick and I honestly, especially after that really bad time, when I came to, like they put me into an induced coma. And that's that little bit where I opened my eyes and Ciara was saying, "You're doing great, sis." And I closed my eyes. I was actually in a coma at that stage. But I just knew, and I told my parents and Ciara later when I could talk, that I just knew I was going to be okay. There was just something. It's weird. It's annoying. You know the way they say people know when they're going to die? Yeah. Well, I honestly think you know when you're going to live as well. Because although I knew I was extremely ill, I just had this knowing. But the point about being intubated is it gives your lungs a chance to recover, to heal. So I ended up, I think it was 10 days later, they had said the anaesthetist was in, the head anaesthetist. She was lovely as well. They were all so nice. She said to me that, you know, you're very long on being intubated and, you know, we have to take it out. So they wanted to do a tracheotomy on me. And I thought years ago, remember those horrible ones years ago? Yeah. So I was like shaking my head. Because remember, I can't talk now because I'm intubated. Yeah. So everything is with a pen and paper. Plus, I'm absolutely off my head in morphine as well. But I thought I was acting normally, but I wasn't. Sure, I couldn't spell. I couldn't write. Ciara was saying, like, I wouldn't even have a pen in my hand. And I thought I was writing. So, like, how? And they asked my mum, because I shook my head and said no. Yeah. So, mum was saying to Ciara, how are we going to get her to agree to this? Because they were going to have to take that decision away. So, mum knew I didn't want to do it. But she's like, well, yeah, it's going to save her life. So, I had a lovely anaesthetist and she came and spoke to me. And she told me the new procedure and how it's so different. And so I agreed. Then I said, right, if it doesn't work. So I shook my head and I agreed. And I said, okay. So the day that it was coming out for the last time, they said, so mom said, I'm going to be with you. So she came up and it was so weird. There was loads of different people on that day. Normally you're used to the same people being around you. So the whole day was really surreal. There was a new nurse. And she was young, but she was lovely. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry now. It's not one of your regular nurses. And I was like, no, I trust you. And I did because they just talk you through everything as it happens. They turned down the amount of morphine I was getting. Yeah. But they said to mum, go off for your lunch and come back. We'll do it then. But when they turned down my morphine, I started to get really ill. Okay. So mum had left. And I was lying there and this weird feeling came up like I was going to be really, really violently sick. But I couldn't because I had a tube. Yeah. So I remember getting my phone and banging off the side of the bed. One of the anaesthetists ran over and I just typed that I was sick, going to get sick. Yeah. So they had to do it then and then. So the team were around really quickly and the nurse just grabbed my hand and she said, I'm going to talk in your ear and tell you what to do. So she just said, right, when we take the tapes off and we're going to take the tube out, I just want to do cough, cough, cough. And so I did. I listened to everything now. I squeezed the hand off her and I did that. And the tube came out and everybody was looking at me and I took my first breath and I was like, oh, it feels okay. And then that was it. Tube was out. So when mom actually came back from lunch, there I was, intubation gone.
And what was going through your head?
I was terrified.
Were you terrified?
I was absolutely terrified. I thought, now this could be where it all goes wrong again. And I knew they couldn't intubate me again. So I knew it was going to the tracheotomy. And I was like, what's my life going to be? I'm never going to work again. All these thoughts come over your head. Plus you can't communicate. So this is all inside your own head and people are talking to you and I'm trying to communicate to them and they're getting it wrong and I'm getting it wrong. And it was so hard.
And how did you deal with that after the fact? Like, do you have trauma from that?
Do you know what? When it all stemmed over and everything was grand and I was finally released from hospital, I had to go and live with my parents for 6 days. I think it was 8 weeks because I wasn't allowed to home by myself. Sure, I couldn't walk when I left. Yeah. I was so weak. So I lived with mum and dad and they were brilliant. And my sister, they all came around. Everybody was helping me. I was in a tunnel then. I was in that because I was told, now you won't be able to work again. You won't be able to do this. And I was like, there's no way. I am spending the rest of my life not working.
So the 8-year-old who couldn't walk is coming
back again. Yeah. And I was like, right, I just have to get myself strong. So at this stage, like the first night, I'll never forget the first night I went home. There was trauma because before that, actually, I'll tell you, I couldn't even go to the toilet. Dad had to lift me into the toilet because I couldn't walk. Right. So I was like, Dad, I have to go to the toilet. So thank God I'm light as a feather. Yeah. So and God love him, I was about 41 at that stage. No problem. Picked me up, brought me in, closed the door, waited outside. Yeah. I couldn't really be left alone because I could fall over because I was just so weak. Everything had drained out of me. But that night, anyway, they put me to bed, and mum and dad have a dormer bungalow. So what they said, they put me downstairs, and I went into bed, and I remember lying there, and I was like, there was no sign of sleep on me. I think it was all starting to kind of hit. So they were going to bed, and they came in, and mum said to me, I could see her looking at my dad. And mum said, you know what? She said, do you want to come up now and sleep beside me, and your dad will sleep down here? And I said, yeah, like 41 years of age, sleeping with my mother. And I held her hands in the bed.
Aww.
No, I didn't sleep. She went to sleep, but I lay there. But it was just the comfort of knowing. So the trauma, I don't think really hit. It was a good year and a half, because I couldn't let it in. Yeah. I had to get better. So I was back in work by March, working part-time. But I knew if I didn't get myself on track, that wouldn't be it. You know, you do have to push yourself to extremes.
Yeah.
And there's days where I lay there and I'm, oh my God, I really don't want to do this, but no, get up and do it. And I'm so glad I did, because I probably haven't been as healthy since. It's amazing.
But the thing is, Mags, like other people could have went down a very different route. But I think as well, you've had a lovely life.
Yeah, I have. You're right. Definitely. Yeah.
The friendships, but you have such group of friends, and but they're all good friends.
Yeah, they are. Like mom is always like me saying, oh, which friend is this now? And where do they work, you know? And I'm blessed that way. That's what I was saying. My life is blessed. Yeah, it's been tough, but like loads of people have tough things. Everybody's had some tough times in their family, if it's not, you know, them personally. So, and I'm not saying like, you know, people get illnesses and my God, it floors you. It's not that they don't have strength. It's everybody is so different, you know, and I don't honestly know. I just think for me, it's just something within me that I just have to fight.
How is your health now?
My health's great. Oh my God, I'm so blessed. Like I've been really good. I took one big major disaster, but as I was saying to my family there recently, I think that built up in me for a good 10 years before it happened.
Yeah.
You know, I think there was loads of little incidents when we look back. You just kind of push past, and it kind of did teach me now. I'm like very much aware of overworking. Your health is so important. You know, go to anybody dead, literally, you know. So I go in, I do my job now, and I go home. It was a hard lesson to learn. And I think for me, a lot of the trauma was the guilt of what my family and friends had to go through. Especially people like, I was allowed a few visitors in, but they had to gown up, PPE up to come in and see me. And for them to see me like that was hard for me afterwards to get my head around. Now, I know it wasn't my fault what happened, but I still felt guilty over it, you know?
Really?
So yeah, felt terrible. Oh, for months I was like, oh God, I can't believe now that's after happening. And now they had to like have that, like my mom, dad and sister had a conversation about my funeral, you know, like, you know, it was just to think about it is horrific. Then I was thinking, God, what happens if I had died? Now, what would they have done? How would they have planned the funeral? Like stupid things go through your brain. So yeah, there was a lot of guilt there, but again, it didn't come till about a year and a half or 2 years afterwards.
And even that, like you said, to start that, you know, you didn't even really tell people what it was, because we went out to the house, myself, Julie and Darren.
Yeah.
And we went out, and I was kind of driving it in the car, and you know me, because I'm so flighty, like I was like, now, what are we going out here for? Yeah. And what's going on? And they were like, she's not well. And I was like, right. And what's wrong with her? And it was like, we don't know. We don't know really. We don't know, but we just know she's not well. So we're going out. So I was like, great. We'll go out and we'll bring biscuits and we'll have a cup of tea. And we did.
The usual. Yeah. And that's the way I wanted it, because I think as well, the harder thing as well is because when this was all going through, which is absolutely bananas, I was actually still posting on Facebook, but I was actually off my head. Yeah. I could have written anything. You know, Kira actually had to get my my passcode off me and check my messages, because people were obviously messaging me stuff. But she, like they'd said in ICU, you have to be careful about the way you speak around her, even when I was in the induced coma, because she said they say patients can hear. Yeah. So they didn't want people coming into, like my mom, dad and Kira coming into going, oh my God, she's dying. And oh God, she's so sick. So they had to pretend God loved them when they came in the room. And that's why Kira was leaning over me, telling me I was doing brilliant. When really here she is looking at her sister in an induced coma on the bed. So that must have been so hard for them, you know. They have amazing strength as well.
And do you talk about that now?
No, I'm not really. Like, this is probably the most I've talked about it. You're actually getting an exclusive here now. Yeah, I just don't talk about it. I just kind of, the odd time it would come up in conversation. Obviously, when it comes to the date every year, the 28th of December, I'm like, oh, you know, this day, whatever amount of years ago is when I went into the induced coma. Yeah, like we'd mention it every now and then. Obviously, they're always concerned for me, you know, but they know I'm very sensible now. You know, if I have something, if I don't feel well, I'm straight to the doctor. Yeah. Obviously, I'm working in healthcare now in Swift Care, so I know I'm in safe hands. But it is a worry. It is a worry every winter. I'm thinking, could this thing get me again? You know, could it happen?
I want to bring it back to Ciara.
Yeah. Keedy Pondy is her nickname.
What's her nickname?
Keedy Pondy. She'll kill me for saying that. So when she was younger, she couldn't say Ciara Penrose, so she called herself Keedy Pondy. And that's what she's still in my phone as, Keedy Pondy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And come here, tell me this, right? So let's try and see if we can, like, be honest as possible. And I know Ciara's not here, but I have 2 girls. Yeah. And they kill each other, right? Yeah. They kill each other, right? So as this 3-year-old, absolutely spoiled in our life, you know, she's the only child. Yeah. We can hear from your story, and I know that your mum and dad are such amazing parents. Yeah, they are. Yeah. So you can only imagine the life Ciara had. Yeah. So she could have very easily gone down a different route with you, but how was that for you guys? Well, from the time that I can remember, we were always like the best friends. You know, we were treated like twins. Right. You know, we used to laugh and say, yeah, we're twins, you know, and people be looking really confused. Well, oh my God, your one's black. How's she your twin? But, she, as I said, I always considered her the older sister because she was like the mammy. So she always looked out for me. Like, we went to school, we're obviously in the same year, we were in the same class. And then one day my mom got a phone call from the teacher and she's like, Noeline, I'm going to have to separate them. I was like, oh, why? What's wrong? And she said, because Ciara keeps putting up her hand and saying, my sister needs to go to the toilet. My sister needs to blow her nose. My sister this, my sister that. So she said, like, I was just sitting there and Ciara was doing all the running around, you know. So we were eventually separated. And that's when we were in, I think, senior infants or whatever. Right. So, we've always got along great. The funny thing is, though, why we got along so well is my mum wouldn't let us fight. Really? This was the thing. Yeah. So my dad used to say, Noeline, they're sisters, let them fight. And my mom used to turn around and say, no, they only have each other. They're not allowed to fight. I need Noeline to come to my house. Yeah. Just for a weekend. Oh, we weren't allowed. So if you fought, but you see, the thing is so funny. Ciara and my dad are really similar in personality. Right. And mom and I are very similar. So Ciara and dad would have a row with you. And then 10 minutes later, Ciara's terrible. She'd spend at her last 3 cents if she had it to spend, right? Where I was like always sensible with my money, saving and blah, blah, blah. So she'd turn around and she'd fight with me over something, don't know, or whatever we were fighting over. Yeah. Literally for 2 minutes, but I'd be mortally wounded and really upset. So I'd be in my room traumatized that we're after having a row. And she'd come barging in, can I have a loan of £20? And I'd be like, is this one for real? She's just ate the head off me literally 5 minutes ago. And there wouldn't be a bother. I sure said to her, I'm sorry. Yeah. And I'd be like, I know. Then mom would have to come up and she'd be like, well, you know what she's like? She's exactly like your father. Yeah. So that's the type of relationship we had. So we rarely did fight. Even now we would, even when we worked together, we wouldn't really fight, like, you know. So we do have a really good bond. She is the best sister. I mean, if I said to her, right, come on, we have to go to Cork tomorrow. We're going to Cork. All those times when I was working mental hours, Ciara would do my Christmas shopping. She'd be saying, oh, I'm going here. I saw this coat. I'd get pictures of it. Do you want that? I'll get you that. I'll buy you that. Or I saw these boots for you. She still sends me things over. Really? So she is like another mother, you know. So I couldn't be without her. And then let's talk about your blackness or the fact that you're black. After the Tubridy interview, I contacted you because the connection with us, the Zambian connection with us, is that my godfather is Zambian. Yeah. And it's gas. I know. It's just so funny. And we never knew all these years. Yeah, and we never knew this, you know. So and Isaac came over. That's a lovely name. He came over with, again, hearsay, I don't know, but apparently Samantha Mumba's father was friends with him. Yeah. And they all came over together, and it was that makes sense. Yeah, it was something to do with Aer Lingus, and he met my aunt. And then, but I remember what touched me was that my cousin Owen, it was my Holy Communion.
Yeah.
And they lived here and I think they'd own at the time, and then maybe Wayne.
Yeah.
And they lived in Ballymun, and they left because of the racism.
Oh God.
And they moved to Manchester.
Yeah.
And they live in Manchester now.
Right.
But I remember for my Holy Communion, and I was skipping down Sean McDermott Street with him.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably about 5 years between us, maybe.
Yeah.
And I hear Jesus, look at them too. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was a sight. And then Isaac, I grew up with him, so I didn't know any different to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember one time, one of the girls from the original podcast that I did, Lisa Conway, she came to my door and Isaac opened it. Now, it was in the night time.
Oh God.
So, and
I can imagine.
Could you imagine? And he's big. He
probably has amazing teeth.
Yeah. So he's like 6 foot something probably. And he's like just a big, very big built man.
Yeah.
And all she could see was teeth. And she got such a fright that she ran away from the door, you know? And I was like, is she serious? Do you know what I mean? So,
people weren't used to seeing black people.
No,
you know?
they weren't.
Yeah.
And even I had
fear of the unknown.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with my mum when all Black Lives Matter came up, and I had a conversation with her, and even the terminology she was using. Yeah. She was like, all of them were in together and they all lived together up in this house. They had a house and there was loads of them. Yeah. And I was like, and she wasn't meaning that in any offense. Of
course. Yeah.
But I said to her, Mum, you can't say that. And she was like, but it was them. I'd say them about
I know. Yeah. So, the connotation behind them. Yeah.
Where is it?
And do you know what? It's hard because we all make mistakes when we're talking, about everybody, about, every race. So it's very hard to be so PC all the time. And the only thing is, I'd say, if I find myself saying something wrong, I try and correct myself and say, well, for the likes of your mom, she's old school. That's the way they were brought up, So this is what I'm talking about now, about kids, about, being educated at home. You can't expect teachers to teach your kids everything, It has to start from at home. People think people automatically accept that when people are different, whether it's to do with, say, me, my scoliosis because of the way I walk with it, and my back has obviously got a big curvature on it. B, then because I'm black or mixed race. Mm-hmm. So it's conversations that people have to talk about.
Yeah.
So if it's never spoken about, how can we expect people to totally understand? So it's just about getting it out there, about speaking about it. Like before this, as you know, we've known each other many years. You've probably learned so many things about me. Like after I did that Somebody Show, people were ringing me and said, I never knew you were paralyzed. Yeah. I've known you for 30 years and you never told me that, because I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
But maybe that's where I went wrong, because I didn't feel, I don't know, I won't say the need to talk about it, but it was something that happened to me. So I just dealt with it. But it is about educating people. Mom said to me when I was younger, say when they were going somewhere new. So I always remember getting the talk, as we'll call it. Okay.
Really?
So my mom saying to me, now we're going here today, Marguerite, or Mags, whatever she'd call me. She'd say to me, now don't mind if people are looking at you. But the way she told me was, because you're just so beautiful. You're so unusual. They know, they're going to be saying, oh, look at her. She's gorgeous. So they really built it up. So when people and they stared, yourself, people stared like their eyes becoming eyed and stalks at me. But I never saw it as a really bad thing.
Yeah.
That way. But I would be very conscious now of looking at people, and say if I was with Kira was a wagon when we were younger, she'd go mad if someone was staring, and here she'd be. And I'd be waiting for it to set off onto them, really? Or say like you or Julie or somebody who was with me. It'd be more my friends would be more defensive about it.
Yeah.
But I really think, in relation to, you have to give people a chance.
Yeah.
There's a difference between genuinely being not knowing and being racist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, we can all say, and we've all been around people that have done it. I'm not racist, but, and then they launch into this joke and everybody's supposed to laugh. So.
Does that kill you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you are being racist, and just because it's a joke doesn't mean it's okay. So the thing is, whereas probably before, I mightn't have, spoken up as much. I mightn't have said, oh God. And I wouldn't have laughed, but I'd be like, I'd be fuming inside.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say anything. I'd probably be more embarrassed when I shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
They should have been the one that's embarrassed. Whereas now I'd say, you know what? That's actually not funny. That's racist. But the thing is, when you call people out, genuine people will be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I honestly didn't. And you're like, it's fine, blah, blah, blah. Explain why it's racist. So I always say it's racist because, you can't say the N word.
Yeah.
Or something that really got to me lately, I don't know whether you saw it on Twitter, it was all over the media about the writing that was on, was it the Halfpenny Bridge or one of the bridges in town?
Yeah.
That said N out, the word anyway. So now this is where I really got annoyed, right? First of all, it's seeing that, okay? But then a radio station interviewed, obviously, passers-by, but they only played one passerby, what they commented. So the comment was, what do you think when you look at that? So it's obviously a white person that they interviewed.
Yeah.
And it was a guy, and he said, oh, well, if I was in the likes of Spain or wherever it was, I can't remember what country, and I saw leprechauns out, I wouldn't be offended by that. So even somebody saying something like that, like you can't compare that to what was actually written.
Yeah.
So this is the type of person we're trying to change, the mindset of people.
Do you think that's stupidity, though, or what do you think that is?
You know what? I actually can't even get my brain around it.
Yeah.
Because now, right, Black Lives Matter has always been around. And that's the one thing I want to say. Like, people are probably looking at me that never spoke about myself before, as I've said in the last while. And now I'm up here and I'm chatting and I'm telling this and I'm telling that. I'm only doing it because maybe I should have been doing it a long time ago.
Yeah.
Black people, you're always defending yourself.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I would defend myself in different ways. You're always trying to prove yourself. And in retail, I told like a few stories that, say I'm in the shop and everybody's busy, and I was the manager then before I left for a few years. So I'd kind of be on the floor all the time. But people would come in and they would avoid coming to me. They'd be trying to go over to somebody one of the makeup artists doing a makeover, asking them to get something, even though I'm clearly free, I'm ready to help them. So I'd always walk over and say, hi, can I help you with something? No, it's okay.
And was that a certain generation, or was that
completely mixed?
Completely mixed.
Completely mixed. So then I'd say, okay, give them a few minutes, and then I'd say, and they'd say my friend Paige or whatever worked there, she would say, no, Marguerite will help you. Yeah. So I'd say, no, do you want me to get you something? And by the time then I used to have to nearly prove myself that I was a good person. And then I'd be annoyed at myself, like,
raging that you did that.
Raging.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to treat everybody equally, so why can't they afford me that just because of the colour of my skin? But then you'd find people, they'd nearly be hugging and kissing you so a lot of it is ignorance.
Yeah.
A lot of it is...
Do you think it's fear, Mags?
Again, it's stuff that's instilled from them. They are hearing these things from somebody.
Do you think so?
Yeah. So whether it's it could be a flippant remark that was made years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, there, as in that word. There, this. So if you hear that, say, when you're 6 or something, and that's constantly spoken about like that in your house.
Yeah.
So you're being brought up with that attitude that these type of people, black people or whoever you're talking about, aren't your type of people. So these things get instilled. And then there's the likes of now that we're hearing so much about, the far right groups. And, it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. The stuff that they put up is, it's really hard to cope with. It's hard to explain, but it is very hurtful. It's just, but nobody can help what sex they're born, what race they're born, that's who you are. So we just have to be more accepting of everybody. It's really, a lot of it has opened up my eyes about just how we're very unaccepting of something that we deem to be different from us.
Do you think so?
Yeah, definitely. It's horrible to say, but it's true. So it comes down to the person that you are, and you do have to look at yourself, and you do have to say, right, you know what, I would have said this, but now I know I'm not going to, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not labeling somebody for the rest of their life. People have sent me, oh my God, the amount of messages I got after I did the Black and Irish story, which is kind of where it all came from. And that was done, I honestly didn't think anything would happen with that.
Yeah.
I was actually in work when the message was posted. Now, Rebecca, I was shaking. I got this ping on my phone. I was like, oh, what's that? And then I looked and it's like, your story's live. I was like, oh my God.
Really?
And I hadn't really told anyone I did it.
Yeah.
So I was shaking. I was on a call at the time speaking to a patient. So I couldn't even
oh my God,
have a nervous breakdown to myself. And I was like, oh my God. Right. So I finished dealing with the patient. I was like, oh God, I didn't even want to go in and read it because I'd done it a while before.
Yeah.
So it's like, what did I say? Oh my God.
And where did that contact come from?
So I actually, the page, the Black and Irish page, somehow I came across it. You know, you and I were on Twitter and we're on Instagram. So it was on Instagram and I came across it. And I think they'd only just launched. There might have been one post and I saw them put up a thing and I read it. And it was kind of from the Black Lives Movement that these guys started up. It's some guys and girls that did it. They're just brilliant. I'm still obsessed with the page. They're really good. The stories that are brilliant. So they said, oh, we're looking for people to tell their story.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, I'll send it in.
Yeah.
Now, honest to God, I didn't think anything of it. I thought, I'll send it in. Probably won't even put it up. And my story was huge. Like, so they were like, we might just have to edit it down.
Hilarious.
So I was like, yeah, grand, no problem. Still didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
And literally from that, it actually blew up. The messages, I was weeks answering messages from total strangers, people from all over the world were messaging.
Saying what to you?
Just, do you know what? I'm very, very blessed again. Such positive messages and saying, you know, when I'm reading what happened, when I'm reading what you're saying, the likes of saying like, you know, oh, I never saw colour or where you're really from. Oh God, I've said that. And I've like friends messaged me like really upset saying, I'm so sorry if I offended. And I said, no, it's fine. I said, you know, the message is not to make anybody feel bad. It's to make things better. And that's all that, you know, that I'm concerned about it. You know, Irish people say that, oh, where are you from? Where are you really from? As in, you know, say if you said Dublin, I need a Cork accent.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to say that.
Yeah.
So, I suppose it's just about thinking before you speak. Or if somebody turns around and said, like, if you turned around to me and said, you know what, that's really offensive what you said to me. I, as a person, say, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
You know, blah, blah, blah. But you don't always get that. You kind of say, oh, well, be offended, or they got offended that you're offended that they've offended them. So that's why sometimes people are afraid to call people out on it.
Yeah.
Because they're like, it's going to come back on me. And if you look at a lot of trolling online, that's what happens.
Yeah.
So you say something, they pick up on it, and then it comes back, and it always comes to the thing that, well, how can you be Irish if you're not white? That's what they're basically saying. So, like, I was born here. I was born in an Irish hospital.
Yeah.
You know, 46 years ago. But people are telling me that I'm not Irish.
Working out the podcast and making sure that I don't offend.
Yeah.
I don't unintentionally offend somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I do, I can obviously say, look, Jesus, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Or everything. Do you think that we have a racism problem in Ireland?
Yes, we definitely do. But a lot of people think that we don't. But I do want to say, on a positive spin about it, it has changed a lot in the last few years. But say anybody who's on Twitter, anybody who's listening now, not so much on Instagram, because Instagram's mainly just pictures and, you know, things like that. Go on to Twitter. That is an ugly world. Like, I love Twitter. It can be great, but it can be very, very harsh as well. There's, you know, even look at, say, some of the influencers stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Look at the horrible messages, you know, that people post. So when it comes to like being black or being in Black Lives Matter, like I did get a few things from people saying, oh, how come you're just suddenly talking about this now?
Bandwagon?
Yeah, like I'm jumping on that. How can you jump on a bandwagon that you actually, I'm part of?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I put my hand up in the air and I'll say, no, I didn't talk about it before because my personal life was my personal life.
Yeah.
But I really think, I suppose that, in order to make a change, we have to be able to talk about things that make us uncomfortable. Yeah. Now, when I say uncomfortable, for me, I only mean uncomfortable because I have to bare my soul. I have to, you know, say things that I don't really want to talk about because they're my life and it is personal. But then in order to make a change, I have to be able to tell my story so people can listen and say, all right, okay, I take the points there, or I see where this is going. Do you know, that way?
Yeah.
So, and I think people relate better when they hear a personal story as well, that it's not just some random person, you know, that somebody that they could connect with. And I think as well that, racism in Ireland is so big.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Very easy for me to say, really.
Yeah,
you know, as a white person.
No, it is. But you know what really opened my eyes even more? Do you notice on TV and all the magazines how many black people are flooding the TV media? They're everywhere now.
Yeah.
Where were we before that?
Yeah.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's not because we didn't apply for the jobs or you know, obviously there was black models, there was black musicians, there was black broadcasters.
Expose Nadine.
Love Nadine. Yeah, get on really well with her. She's brilliant. She's really good because you know what? She gives such a positive vibe as well. She's very flamboyant. She's very honest.
I've met her a couple of times.
Yeah. So, really love her. Now suddenly there's one on every ad. There's one, you know, they're in studios. It's like all of a sudden, quick, get the black people. So I think, we need to see more black people on things, but not just for tokenism. So Nadine had already been into the market.
Yeah, she had,
She was already there, which I think is brilliant. So now we need to see more people constantly there.
And do you think it's a token thing right now?
Yeah, sad to say, yeah.
It's a token black person. You see it from the movies, you know, the YM brothers years ago, the YMs, and they made the white chicks and the Scream things, and they did this is the token black person.
Yeah. So, you know, in some ways it's not a bad thing because now the market is flooded with black people, mixed race people of colour, whatever anybody wants to describe themselves as. So it was tokenism, but that's okay if it's going to get people places, you know. So if it opens up,
do you feel like that's okay? Or
I don't not that it's okay. It's yes, it was tokenism at the beginning. So let's see how long it lasts. Is this going to wear off? In a year, are we still going to have all those black people on magazines, on, you know, on TV adverts? You know, so at the moment there is and it's so funny because even for me, I'm looking at TV going, oh my God, I've never seen so many black people or mixed race or people of colour before.
You did an eye roll.
It's actually unusual for me. Yeah. So that'll tell you how different it is. So did you find that from the ads? And what's your take on that? Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen it. And I said, but just to see it and and you're like, oh my God, they've just taken redone that whole ad.
Yeah, and put a black person in.
Yeah. And you're like, oh my, I don't say why because I know why, but at the same time, is it just because of the Black Lives Movement?
Yeah, it is. Now, in fairness, how do I get this point across? It's a little bit hard. So in fairness, I see what people are trying to do. They are trying to change, and that's great because that's what we're looking for. So now let's look down a year down the line and see is that all still in place? Yeah. Because this should be something that's fluid now. Yeah. That runs all the time.
Yeah.
So it's brilliant that so many people are getting opportunities that they probably should have been getting for the last 20 years. God love them on the scene. So now, it's great, but it definitely is tokenism. And people have given out about this and I understand why. It's like, in huge companies, directors have stood down and replaced them with a black director.
Yeah.
That's not right either.
No.
Because that causes people saying, oh, they only got that job now because they're black. We don't want that.
Yeah.
We just all I want is fairness. Yeah. So...
And do you know when you're saying do you think it's us against, there is an us against them element to this or?
In times there can be, Right. In certain circles there is. I suppose it's like men and female, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that tug. Nobody wants to admit that, it is us against them.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't have to be that way. As I said, why does it matter? Why does it matter if you're a woman and someone's a man or I'm black and you're white? So why does that matter? So we need to just get rid of the whole what everybody is. Yeah. And just be accepting. So if I come in and I say, I'm Marguerite and I'm black. Oh, Grant, that's fine.
Yeah.
Not, oh God, are you? Well, your skin is a little bit light because people say, oh, you're a bit light now. Really? So would you call yourself black or would you be more mixed race? Or, I wouldn't call you black. Oh, God, people say it.
And are we still using the term mixed race?
Yeah, a lot of people do. Yeah. But if you're unsure, just say to somebody, do you mind me asking? Yeah. What race are you? So people, most people don't mind. Most people will tell you straight off. But when people get annoyed is when people presume things, or try to tell you that you're I'd be quite, I suppose, I'm not really dark.
No.
But, somebody that's even lighter than me, they'd be saying, oh, but you're not dark at all. How could you say that you're a mixed race? Or how can you say you're black? If they want to be black, they're black. How does like what I want to know is, why is it any of your business? Why do you care so much?
And then this whole, since the black and Irish thing came out, since the fact that you have been more vocal about it, and do you know what, Max? Maybe it's age as well. Maybe you want to go, well, listen, you know, I'm old enough now. I want to be able to say what I want to say.
I think you're right there. The age you do. And, you know, you probably remember when you were younger and your parents say, oh, as you get older, things change and you become a little bit more, you know, you use your voice a bit more.
Yeah.
And it is true. I would come over that I'm a very confident person, but I'm not.
And then with all of that, so from the Black Lives Movement and from Tubridy and from all your vocalism, I will say, have you noticed friends or relationships or acquaintances move away or?
Yeah, I have noticed a change. 99.9% of people have been really, really supportive. You know, absolutely. I'll say this one person, my friend Anya and Carl, they live in America. After doing, I think it was the Tubridy, it was a Tubridy show. I think he sent it to me, and he sent me this amazing message. Like, you know, from a guy, you're just like, I literally, honest to God, I was in floods of tears reading it. I got up in the morning and they're in the States, so the time difference, so I didn't get it when he sent it to me. And I woke up the next morning and just went in. I was like, oh, a message from Carl. Clicked into it, not expecting to read what I was just completely floored. And you know what? That one message actually made me feel on top of the world. He just said the most amazing stuff about just being so supportive. And, you know, it was just, like I kept the message and I messaged him back and I was like, thanks a million. You don't know what that message meant to me. I messaged Anya, his wife, and I was like, your husband's amazing. I'm after getting the most amazing message from him. So the support, like all you guys have been so supportive. Then there's been a little few that, people that you really thought were going to be. Now, I'm not saying I'm not doing this for credit. Yeah. You know, you don't go on to bare your soul just for the crack, to be honest.
No, you don't. Yeah.
It is, as I said, it's all very personal. But I'm glad I've done it because it's made me a completely different person. You know, I'm happy to talk about it now, which is great. And, you know, I probably should have been talking about all this, you know, the medical side of it for years. I never told anybody anything because I felt I had to keep it to myself. I don't know why. That's probably just an insecurity in myself. But now I'm actually glad I can talk about it now. Yeah. I don't have to feel like I need to blend in. Like I used to wear black all the time. I know this sounds hilarious to blend in. Like, wow. How can you blend in when you're the only black person somewhere? My God. You know, because I felt like I didn't want to make myself seen because of my back and people are going to notice. Of course they're going to notice. It's a curvature of the spine. Yeah. There's no hiding it. And why should I? It's part of me. Yeah. So it's helped me really accept it. And I know it seems
who you are.
Yeah. And I know at this age it's terrible. Yeah. Because I do come over very confident. So it's good to show your vulnerable side and say, you know what? Right. Okay. I probably should have said this a long time ago. So it's great that way. So yeah, there's been one. No, I mean, very few. But you know, they might have their issues as well. Yeah. So everybody has. And that's the thing is if someone does something that you're not happy with, you have to kind of flip it around before you lose it. Yeah. Because you have to say, right, what's going on in their life? You know, what are they going through? Why do they feel like this? Some people you're never going to change. So that's one thing you have to accept. Okay. So we can't change everybody, but if we can change one or two people, well, that makes such a difference because they in turn, it's a ripple effect. It's like a domino effect, but definitely doing I think the Black and Irish page, those guys, they're brilliant. Like they're young, they're in their 20s, you know, they've social media, they've hit it like a storm. They care about people. What they started is amazing because they got people talking. Yeah. You know, look at all the stories that are on the page. If anybody hasn't seen it, check out their page, Black and Irish. It's just really good. And read the stories. And a lot of them are so similar. Like a lot of the things that people say, the racism that they experience, and especially in school. Is coming out. Really? And I'm not saying it's down to teachers. No. But they don't get proper, like there's anti-bullying legislations for school and things like that. There's no anti-racism. So all this needs to come in. Like pupils need to be told there's zero tolerance for bullying, zero tolerance for racism, zero tolerance for, you know.
How mad is that?
Yeah, diversity and everything. You know, you have to be inclusive of everybody, you know. Like they had a teacher on the Black and Irish page one night. He was brilliant. He was really interesting. Yeah. And he said a very interesting thing. So somebody asked a question and said, how do they deal with racism in the classroom?
Yeah.
So they're not actually really allowed to approach the pupil. Whereas if I picked up my phone and threw it at your head, he'd be able to approach me over that.
What?
Yeah. So if there's racism in the classroom, he said it normally goes to the headmaster or whoever's in charge, the principal.
Up.
Yeah. Now, I don't know whether it applies to all schools.
Yeah.
But again, it's something that has to be changed, and it's everywhere. It's in the workplace as well, you know.
And tell me this, right, Mags? Just off mic there, we just grabbed a quick cup of tea. We just talked about PE racism. Mm-hmm. And I think it wasn't me that used the word, it was Paul.
Blame Paul.
Blame Paul. And
I know what he means.
I think it's a bit apt, or is that like wrong to say? Yeah,
I suppose the context, we'll say what it was used in was that years ago, say older generation, say the likes of our nannies and our granddad or whatever, it would be like a penny for the black baby.
Yeah.
So as in they were doing good by giving the money.
Yeah.
So because they were, in their way, it was being supportive.
Yeah.
You know, that way. So it wasn't meant in a malicious.
Yeah.
You know, they were doing good. And I suppose it's like, you know, the Troker ads and all that years ago. Yeah. You know, we'd all bring home our Troker boxes. I know they still do now. So again, education system was so different, you know, it's just, but like anything, everything has to change with the times, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying things that went on years ago was okay just because they didn't really know.
Yeah.
But they didn't really have the education. We have no excuse now. Nobody has an excuse. Our phones are with us 24/7. You know, we have Google. Yeah. We have everything. We've talked to each other. So it is about trying to bring about a change. It needs to happen probably a bit quicker. It's sad, like nobody wants to believe that the country they live in is racist. You know, we don't, because, it's Ireland and we're all so lovely.
What do you say to someone who says to you that Black Lives Matter is just a phase?
Well, if it's just a phase, how come it's been happening for so many years with so many people like Martin Luther King, you know, the Black Panthers, Bishop Desmond Tutu, you know, everybody, like look at the Obamas even. I mean, they were amazing, you know. So Oprah, so many people, like the list goes on. Then there's the people that we don't hear about that are endless campaigners, you know. Like, you know, people are saying to me, oh, you're a great anti-racist campaigner. I even feel bad saying I'm an anti-racist campaigner because I'm not out there pounding the streets. Yeah. But I'm doing it in my way, you know, and every little bit counts. So I think once you're willing to stand up and, you know, try and justify why you're doing something, you shouldn't really have to, but unfortunately we do. So that's why I kind of said, no, I want to give my voice to this. Black Lives Matter, it's never gone away now.
What racism have you experienced? Yeah,
just name calling, you know, go back to your own country. You're not from here though. No, but I am. And then you get really annoyed and you're like, I don't have to defend myself. Yeah. But you do have to defend yourself. Yeah. So, say you're in like that in a shop, people will try to pretend that you're invisible, like, and jump ahead in a queue, you know, and if you don't say, sorry, I'm next, you know, they're looking at you, you know, but then it's up to people to say, you know, sorry, actually this lady was before you. Or this guy is before you. Just simple things like, you know, people pick up a banana and go hoo at you, you know, like, you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, horrible things. I've been called chalk ice. Oh God, what it's been spat at. Public transport.
What?
I till this day, I don't really like going on public transport because I was abused so much when I was younger on buses and things like that. Spat at, called names. You know, people
and you are
sit
so
beside
like, people need to see you. You're so petite, you know what I mean? You're not like, you know, this big presence, even though you are when you talk to you, because you've got this fabulous personality.
Oh, thank you.
You can take that. You haven't got this big physical presence.
No, yeah.
So,
but that just shows you don't have to. That shows that they don't actually care.
Yeah.
All they see is the that's when they see the colour, but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
So, you know, that'll tell you what their mindset, like literally they look at you and decide that they hate you.
And there is people out there who are just not nice.
And that's what I said. We're never going to change everybody.
Yeah.
But we have to try and, you know, get the message across that, you know, what's going on is wrong. that, like, say the likes of yourself and Julie and Kira, you know, and other friends, you're all bringing up kids. This is what's coming up next, you know, all these future generations. So I think it's important now, even for kids, like as I said, say to my nephews, you know, and how do you feel about everybody being mixed in your class and, you know, kind of thing. And they're so used to it because they have me. They don't see that as a big thing.
Yeah.
So I was trying to tell them, well, you know, when I went to school, I was the only person who was black, and they were like, oh my God, were you? They don't even, they can't even comprehend that. And that's deadly, you know, but that's not to say that racism won't exist now with the younger generation because they're learning from their parents or relatives or friends that they're hanging around with on the road.
How does 4 to 6-year-old Mags deal with racism compared to 16-year-old or 26-year-old Mags?
I think now I try to rationalize it in my brain and try to get, why does this person think like this? So whereas when I was younger, I would have been, oh my God, that's really offensive. And I probably would have been upset, but then let it go. Whereas now I'm kind of like, no, I want to know why you feel like that. But a lot of it, I probably would have kind of tried to ignore a lot of it. You'd be hurt. You can't help being hurt. We're human. You know, I might brush it off at the time, but then if I was home that night, I'd be like, God, that was a horrible thing now that person said to me, you know? Yeah. So I suppose now I'd probably be a little bit more ballsy about it. And as I said to you earlier on, none of us were all, what did I say? What was I always saying? We're perfectly imperfect. So call me out if I say something bad. It was the same about the Magdalene laundry thing. Like, I was so upset.
Were you?
Because, I got attacked online about it in supposedly like one of these kind of support groups for adopted people. It was basically when my story came out, and it was all these horrible comments written. Like, I can laugh about it now. It's probably a nervous laugh. But I was shaking. It was happened at night. Everything always seems to happen at night. You know, just before you go to sleep, couldn't sleep all night. I was tossing and turning thinking, oh my God, these people hate me, you know? And I said the wrong thing. And then I was talking to my friend Liz the next day, and I was telling her what happened. And she was like, but Marguerite, she said, you said the information that you were given, she said. And in fairness, when you look at Magdalene Laundry's mother and baby homes, they're all places that nobody should have been, like those industrial schools. You know, nobody should have been there, you know. And she said, don't beat yourself up about it, you know. So that's why kind of now I've clarified, you know, okay, it was a mother and baby home. Like, I wrote under the message, I read all the messages that they'd written. Now, some are grand, some are, you know what, oh God, you know, maybe she didn't know, or, you know, her story, fair play to her for talking out or whatever. And I did write, like, there was no offense made. This is the information I was given. And then I just left the group because I just said, you know what, there's some people that are so upset and so damaged by what's happened to them, and I have to accept that because I know what it's like. They might have had, like, as I said, I was there until I was 3. So my experience, I can't fully remember everything, which for me is good. You know, I'm glad I don't really remember a lot of it. But some people probably do, and they're quite traumatized. And
maybe they're not as lucky as you to find. They didn't have a Michael and Nolene.
And some people that were adopted, you know, that were never in an orphanage or never anywhere. They went straight from the hospital straight to their new parents. They still have issues because there is a feeling of abandonment. There is, you know, all these issues. Well, why was I given away? And why didn't they want me? And, you know, why aren't they looking for me now? So there is a lot to deal with. It's not just, oh, you have a new family, get on with your life, and what's wrong with you kind of thing.
And then on that, so other than being 16 and her having to sign that letter, like, again, has there been any other contact from her?
No.
Is she alive?
I don't know.
Really, Max?
Yeah, don't know. I know she's 75, so...
Do you know if she went on to have children? Do you know anything else?
I did hear that.
What?
Yeah. That's one thing. I think there's like three, I hate saying the word half, but people do say it.
Yeah.
Siblings, I suppose. They are half siblings because we don't have the same father. But yeah. So now again, hearsay, but I did hear that she got married and had kids. And seemingly it's quite common for, especially around that age group, or when I was born in the 60s, 70s, 80s, that mothers that gave away children or had children taken from them in a lot of cases, that they did get married within a year or two and have families. And I can understand that, you know, it's you know what, it's so complex.
Yeah.
It's absolutely so complex, you know. I do think of my biological parents all the time. They're part of me, you know. It's without them, I wouldn't be here, you know. So, and yeah, you know, when people say like, you know, oh my God, Kira's the image of your mom, or she's the image of your dad. Like, who am I the image of? You know, it's like when you go to hospital, every time you go to the doctor, what's your medical background? Well, I don't know because I don't know my parents. And every form, you know yourself.
Yeah.
And then it's like passport. What's your name?
Yeah.
So I had a different name. Obviously, I had my birth name.
Yeah.
Well, I was Marguerite, but I had a different surname.
Yeah.
So that was all changed. So it's all that explaining all the time. But for me, I do think of my biological parents, and my parents are amazing. Like they've always said to me since I was young, oh, we'd love you to find your parents.
Yeah.
We'd love you to trace. But it's just, do you know what? That is a whole can of worms. You know, I know people that have gone down the tracing route. Some has been brilliant. Some have been absolute disasters, that people have been scarred.
Really?
Yeah. Very emotional. Nothing can prepare you for that. No amount of counselling.
And is that why you don't want to do it?
It's not that I don't want to do it. I think it's very hard in Ireland. It's very difficult. You don't know, like I know, say one particular case where they were told that they found their biological mother for them. And, this person was so excited and everything was brilliant. And then 2 weeks later, they were told, your biological mother doesn't want to make contact with you. So, and then that person just went AWOL.
How do you process that? How do you deal with that? Like you're dealing with your abandonment
like a
all
double,
over again.
Yeah. And this time it's like, oh my God, it's like I'm a fully grown adult or whatever age, you know. And, but yeah, you can't even prepare your brain. You can say beforehand, right, they mightn't want to meet me because they've had their life. They mightn't, their husband or whatever now mightn't know anything about me. Because remember, this all happened probably prior to them getting married. Or now some people were married and it was just their first child and they didn't have the money and they had kids afterwards. And then that's another thing.
That's
horrific. So you found out then that your biological parents are still together and now they've more kids.
Yeah.
So that's very hard. And then it's like, well, sorry, you kept your other 3 kids, but you didn't keep me. So there's so many things to it. And there's so much side. And I firmly believe, and I really believe this, that it must be the hardest thing for any parent to do.
Because you've said that.
Give up their child. Yeah. I really do. Like, I don't have kids, but I know from you guys, I know from my sister, my own mom and dad, you know, like even my nephews, you know what I mean?
Do you forgive them?
I don't think there's anything to forgive.
Right.
Yeah, I don't feel that way. I'm like grateful because I probably would have had a completely different life.
Yeah.
You know, so my mother made a decision. So I have to know that what she made that decision for me, not for her.
Yeah.
You know, which I think is really selfless thing for her to do. She must have had some strength. Can you imagine like carrying your baby, then having to give the baby away?
Never.
And then I hear she came to see me. So she was coming in and out. Now I don't know whether it's 100% true again. But yeah, it's mind blowing. Like how much she have felt to come in, see her daughter, then leave, come back again, you know, a few times and then live with that.
What would you say to her?
I have no idea. I tried. Sometimes you think about it in your head.
Yeah.
You know, oh God, if it just happened to, and people were saying to me about tuberty, God, what do you think? Do you think it's somebody going to know, you know, kind of thing? And then they said, because like her brothers probably would have known about me. So they were older. There were 5 brothers and there was 1 younger sister. So the chances are they did know. They were like, what would you do if somebody contacted? But you can't plan. I'd like to think, I honestly don't know how I'd react. I think I'd be delighted, but I'd be so nervous.
Nervous.
Anxiety, you would be, oh God, I'd be off the Richter scale.
Did you have, growing up, like your 16-year-old self, your 18-year-old self, you know, did you have those thoughts in your heads?
I think this is hilarious, but I used to be more the Africa side, that I was going to get this call that I was some like African princess. And I had a big dowry of cash coming to me.
Hilarious.
But I think that's every girl and boy's dream, isn't it? That you're going to be a prince or a king or a queen or whatever, and that you were going to inherit loads of cash and a big gaff, you know.
Hilarious.
But yeah, like, you know, I used to try and think that, God, what would they look like? Yeah, you do. Your mind does. And be like, oh God, okay, so my mom's 75 now. I wonder what she looks like on my dad. He probably looks young because he's black, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and they normally look really young, you know? But yeah, I don't know what I'd do if I got a phone call to say, okay, now we now have your biological mother here and she wants to meet you. I actually don't know what I'd do.
Do you think your mum has wept for you over the years?
Yeah, I think parents would do that, yeah. And that's heartbreaking. I don't feel any malice at all because the way I see it is she didn't have a choice. At the end of the day, she still put me in a place where she thought I'd be safe and where she thought I'd get adopted or fostered from. So, and the fact that she did, you know, come and visit. Yeah, I do believe she did it for my good. And I think it was probably detrimental for her. I think must have been very hard for my biological father. He was obviously back in Zambia. What way did he feel about it? He probably had no choice.
But I'd say that you're an absolute credit to your mum and dad, Michael.
They're a credit to me.
Yeah. And I'd like to say that you're a credit to your mum and dad as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think if she did know the person you are today, I know that like she'd absolutely love you because everyone who meets you, I think, loves you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I am blessed. In fairness, I have such a good friends base as well. But yeah, it is good to have good friends and good family. It definitely helps you along the way.
And you hit the adoption jackpot with
Nolene and Mick and Kira.
Yeah,
I did.
And on that note, we'll end it there, Mags.
So thanks for having me.
Thanks for
I'm honoured to be on your podcast.
Just
everybody tune in.
Just on your Instagram, where can people find you?
I'm at Magsy Malou
on Insta.
Yeah,
perfect.
on Insta. Yeah.
Thanks, Mags.
No problem. Thank you.